Why is there nobody talking about this? And this is around China tech and the recent earnings. And I think there have been a couple surprises. For example, and I posted that one on my LinkedIn page. And by the way, you can go and find me there sometimes. Occasionally, I'm also posting on LinkedIn. I'm rather active on Twitter, but yeah, reach out and connect. And so in this recent post, all I did is basically summarizing some key numbers of three earnings of the companies of Baidu, of Pinduoduo, and of Meituan. And well, all of them kind of beat the top line as well as the bottom line, meaning the estimations by the analysts of these companies were actually lower for the revenues as well as on the bottom line. So that is the earnings of these companies. For example, in the case of Baidu here, the earnings before interest and taxes have been 7 billion yuan versus a forecast of just 4.4 billion. So that's a quite significant beat. The revenues have also been slightly up here, 29.6 billion yuan versus 29.4 forecast. In the case of Baidu, we can say then, of course, the revenue growth isn't there currently. So these are lower numbers. So there are significant declines in terms of year-over-year comparisons. However, we also need to see this in context, right? We're going into what seems to be a global recession. China first entered it, and there's been all of this media talk about the technology crackdown, about a housing crisis, about the bank runs and whatever in China. And still, these companies are currently happen to beat the estimates by Wall Street. For example, also Pinduoduo, which was seemingly quite a surprise because the stock went up 15% afterwards. They even showed revenues up 36% year over year, and also operating profit up 335% year over year. So also seeing a trend towards profitability here in the case for Pinduoduo. And this all in an environment where, of course, we see the Chinese consumer being impacted by zero COVID policies and things like that. It seems like not all of this is really resulting in actually terrible numbers of companies missing on their earnings here. And also a company which I think not many people are talking out there about those type of earnings, for Meituan, which is the delivery service in China, which came in at revenues of 50 billion yuan versus estimated 43 billion yuan. And also the net income was much better, at only minus 1.12 billion versus minus 3.24 billion yuan expected. And so this is one of the companies besides Alibaba and maybe Tencent, which was really at the heart of the technology crackdown and anti-monopoly rules of the regulatory parties and bodies. So really, you wouldn't expect this company to beat earnings in that big fashion, right? So this really shows that we rather have to look at what's actually happening in terms of numbers and on the ground. Will those companies suddenly start and go out of business, or are the media stories true in which everything is seeming at the verge of collapse? And so more recently, during this drawdown in the S&P 500 and Nasdaq, where we have the correction after the Powell speech because of the fear around interest rates and so on, we see also this reflected in kind of the fund flows. Where is the money going? You can see here China in the last 5 days is one of the only places which is in the green. Of course, this is because in China we have the opposite happening than in the US, so monetary easing, while this is still a little bit in the early stages, because of course we first have to get the zero COVID policy out of the way until the economy can really start accelerating again. But we've seen, I think it was today, right, the PMI coming in slightly higher than expected as well, both on the service as well as on the manufacturing side. So there are slight signs that actually investors are paying more attention towards this already. But certainly it doesn't fit the media narrative yet, which is still quite negative about China. And we'll see only later on, I think, when already the change has happened, that this media narrative is also shifting. So it could be a good hedging strategy, having some China exposure in order to during such a time of a withdrawal on the US side, to have kind of a balance in the portfolio, and also for those who are not buying the fear, to get some exposure for China to actually reap the rewards later on if we hopefully get a bounce there. So let me know in the comments what you think about the situation. What would be your stock that you would like to enter in terms of a bigger tech name in China? I can tell you one of my favorites is actually Baidu. If I had to pick between Alibaba, Tencent, or Baidu, that would be my choice. Let me know in the comments if you want a video on this topic, and then thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one.